ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Good morning and welcome to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. And you are at ASEAN Dailies, where we deliver news from Southeast Asia. Well, let's start with the Myanmar news, where Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi, she's arriving in China, and she's the opposition leader of Myanmar, and it was just yesterday. And it was her first visit at the time of cooling the relations between the once closely bonded nation between Myanmar and China. So she was there with a delegation of her National League for Democracy, or NLD, party members following the invitation from China Community Party. And Beijing was the key backer of the Myanmar's military junta, while it was subject to Western sanction, providing a much-needed international ally for brutal regime that crushed dissent and also kept Suu Kyi under house arrest for years. And she's also visiting China both as a free woman and also a politician ahead of crunch elections slated for November this year, 2015, at which this party and NLD is expected to make significant gains if the vote is free and fair. And also the party has said that she's expected to meet the President Xi Jinping and the Premier Li Keqiang. But no detail initially has yet been released by Chinese authorities. Well, it is true that in Myanmar the election is coming up very, very soon in November, and a few leaders already have taken their steps to make a move for the coming up elections. But when it comes to opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi, she's got a lot of history in the political system, and then she's almost 69 years old, and she's visiting China and also to perhaps the other country to be able to cool down the relations. And the official at the airport from Myanmar embassy, there's an embassy in China. However, she says she will meet the president perhaps today, and I hope that the negotiation and also discussion between Myanmar and China goes hopefully well, and also for the future sake as well. Well, let's move on to the political side of Southeast Asia. So it's about the Brunei, and apparently they unfazed by international media perception of country. So what's going on here is Islam is Brunei's official religion, just like in Malaysia, and the government figures state about 34% of the population are of the different religions, including Buddhism and Christianity as well. The Ministry of Religious Affairs, according to him, it was mentioned that all those minorities are free to practice their faith, but only among themselves. So in Malaysia and especially Malaysia, it is very famous that certain religious rules are also applied or the certain groups. However, the Brunei seems a bit liberal, and also Muslim in the capital observed Friday prayers, and also for the next 2 hours, every business from restaurants to entertainment outlets, and they must remain closed by the law. And during the fasting month, which is coming up very, very soon, a similar scenario occurs, meaning that the government declared that the restaurants will not be able to serve this dine-in food between sunrise and sunset, regardless of the owner's customer's religion. So there is some restrictions in Brunei coming to apply the religious law, and especially with the line of fasting month. And the law sounds a bit restrictive, like I mentioned, but many non-Muslims appear unfazed. It is very interesting that Brunei government is so quite authoritative, but people are okay with it. So the question here is, how long can they be in control before there is an unrest? And this is a Muslim country, and so we have to follow Muslim laws, right? And that's one of the person or citizenship mentioned. And Professor James Chin, the director of Asia Institute at the University of Tasmania, he mentioned that being a minority in Brunei, I mean, they've always lived under restrictions, even before the Sharia law was imposed. So I think they are used to living with all these restrictions and the conditions. They have a coping mechanism built in already. Well, that will be also just an opinion coming from a person who's been living there. And it is also very interesting to hear that when foreign media reports mention Brunei, it is all about the Sharia law. It is all about the bad things about our Sultan. But they didn't get the news where every single Bruneian was happy because of our Sultan, which could be very true because the media plays a vital role when it comes to delivering news. And Brunei wasn't really highlighted even in the ASEAN region. So when it comes to certain issues, well, this country is one of the countries that was highlighted in terms of religion mainly rather than other parts of the country issues or matters. So many Bruneians channel News Asia spoke to revere the Sultan for using his oil wealth to help the people, and people love him so much, and they're also very proud to have him as their Sultan of Brunei. And still, some of the younger generations are growing restless, and they also have a lot of talk of boredom over the border of 6 weekends to the much more liberal Malaysia. And some also bring back all those restricted quantities of alcohol and cigarettes. Things are not really openly sold in Brunei. So as much as Brunei does allow other sorts of freedom of religion in Brunei, as long as they can keep among themselves. However, it is based on the Muslim practice and the religion that it is required for the people and the citizen of Brunei to follow certain rule, and it is also quite restricted. And let's move on to the China and also the Philippines. Well, there is a softening of ties between China, and while Aquino seems to believe that simply just by calling on the support of the United States and Japan, which he has just visited, and also he could engage the Asian giant in their interminable world war, which could escalate into great air-sea battle. And this is something that quite a lot of people have been worrying about. Could these certain issues can lead to battle or even a war? And another question here is bringing in the foreign military the way to go for this? And Aquino has moved very quickly to expand the foreign military presence in the Philippines through the agreements that require the constitutional concurrence by the Senate, but which he passes off as mere executive agreement as well. The most visible examples of this is perhaps the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, which is also called EDCA, between the Philippines and the United States Defense Department, which according to the critics has turned the entire country into large U.S. military base. But over the above this, the most damning objection is not the EDCA allows the U.S. forces to be stationed anywhere and everywhere without the concurrence of the Senate, but also the U.S. forces were already positioned everywhere before this came into existence. So the question still remains here regarding the issues and also the relation between the Philippines and then the USA, as well as the involvement of China. And just the last political news before we end the first segment of the ASEAN Daily is about Laos. Because this year Malaysia chairs the ASEAN. However, the next year will be Laos' turn. And we have a question that can Laos actually lead ASEAN in 2016? And Laos last served as ASEAN chair was in 2004, during which the Vietnamese action plan for the ASEAN communities was issued and one of the key milestones in the AAC. So despite its previous experience as ASEAN chair, a lot of things have changed in the ASEAN, ASEAN Economic Community, over the past 11 years, and ASEAN has signed various new economic agreements. We can namely TPPA, and we also have RCEP, and we have also other lot of free trade agreements going on, and which add to the complexity of economic integration in the region. And also hopefully the regional comprehensive economic partnership talks will be completed this year as well. And the AC aspects of being ASEAN chair also have increased significantly since 2004, which was when Laos chaired as ASEAN. And this is something that the political security and the socio-cultural community also expects. And such the responsibility, the question still remains where the Laos can lead ASEAN in the next year, 2016, along with also, of course, with the logistic burdens that would come with having these two ASEAN summits in 2016, and that the Laos was to propose to having these two summits mandated by the ASEAN Charter, and also which will be held in the November 2016. And along with, regardless of the late month of ASEAN summits in 2016, Laos will still take over its responsibilities as ASEAN chair after November 2015 ASEAN summit in Malaysia. So we have another question here which add on to the can Laos actually lead ASEAN in 2016, which is how can they ensure the smooth flow and also the continuity of the ASEAN chairmanship, and also to make sure all these ongoing issues are resolved, and as well as to highlight it regarding all those human rights issues, not only human rights but perhaps to cover all the socio-cultural part of Southeast Asia. So we'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll deliver news, perhaps this time in the economic side of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, good morning. This is Grace.
And of course, you are with us on our news on Southeast Asia. And before we move on to the next news on our economic news, just to give a bit of shout out, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. And talking about Thursday, usually is the day where we are not really looking forward to the work day, but we are definitely not really looking forward to the holiday because it's not Friday yet. But for business, it's business as usual.
Arlene, are you alright this morning?
Anyway, my point is, can integrated ASEAN pack a punch? Because ahead of next month's meeting of the ASEAN Economic Integration Task Force, Netherlands-based consultancy TMF Group has published a briefing paper titled The ASEAN Economic Community Capturing the Zeitgeist of Rising Asia. The paper itself explores how international businesses can best harness the potential of growing region, and of course this region of Southeast Asia is definitely growing on a rapid scale.
And it is good to hear actually that there will be some kind of physical papers that will be handed out. However, the other part that we can talk about is to realize this AEC or ASEAN Economic Community. ASEAN member states have to find their own unique competitive edge and further develop it, because there are 10 countries, and we've been repeating this over 1,000 times, that there are so many issues coming up. But having a paper, will this really help in terms of, to broaden the understanding of AAC?
I think it helped in a lot of ways, because to understand AEC is to do in-depth research, and this paper just add one more value in terms of research and development in this region, especially as China's population getting more and more older, workforce are becoming more and more expensive. What ASEAN can do is to create the full value chain to multinational companies. 60% of ASEAN nations are younger than 40 years old, so it shows that a lot of people in ASEAN or Southeast Asia are really, really young. For example, in Malaysia, 40% of Malaysians are younger than 30 years old. So almost half of the populations are really young workforce.
And perhaps this time, rather than focusing on all those big companies, it is also time for us to focus on the small companies, SMEs or startups, because that's when all those younger generations have been focusing on to expand their skills and also develop their fortes and the fields. So it is also important to look at those areas and how they can benefit by having integrated ASEAN economic community.
Mm-hmm. But this particular research focus more on labor-intensive industry, especially in terms of manufacturing, for example, in Indonesia and Vietnam, and of course research and development in Singapore, which is supported by business process outsourcing in the Philippines. Also, the diverse range of industrial specialization in ASEAN would make our region suitable for a wide array of investors. The paper also kind of project that Singapore and Malaysia specializes in electronic products, while Thailand is in the leading manufacturer in the fast-moving consumer goods and processed food, while Vietnam and Cambodia focuses more on garments and textiles. So for us, it is kind of true that we focus more on electronic products. I mean, we have one of the biggest plant in Southeast Asia, namely the Intel plant in Penang, and a few other more. So it shows that it's good to see which country specializes on which industry and try to get better supply chain value on that particular economic product activity.
Well, to add on that, Indonesia, Brunei, and the Philippines are the main producers of exporters of natural resources like palm oil, rubber, and sugarcane, rice, cocoa, timber, and petroleum, natural gas, coal, and tin. So those are the areas that all this we as Southeast Asians we do have, and then those are the things that we can benefit from each other by if we only know how to collaborate and to understand better when it comes to businesses.
Mm-hmm. But when it comes to businesses, the vertical and horizon integration in this region under the AEC, according to the paper, would stimulate intra-regional investment, trade and business connections, benefiting both foreign and local firms. This is actually something that we really need. Intra-trade within ASEAN is at a very, very low number. So with AEC, hopefully we will trade more with our neighboring countries rather than just with China, US, and EU. In that sense that it will benefit us as well. Like probably countries like Laos, Brunei, they will get more products from Malaysia as well, and it will somehow spur local entrepreneurs to do more innovation and creative, finding more creative markets for them to market their products.
Yes.
So I think one of the area that is lacking in terms of integration is definitely to the removal of non-trade barriers. It's still very much one of the biggest stumbling blocks in realizing the AEC, and these are areas that needs to be discussed specifically for us in ASEAN. And besides that, ringgit is also in a declining halt, expected to remain weak for a very long time.
Well, this is one of the weakest ringgit rate, and then now it's almost 3.8 when it comes to the US dollar, the convert currency, and this brings a lot of worrisome because when we want to buy products or when we go out and outside of the country and buy the currency from different countries, now we have to think almost 4 times now, not 3 times anymore, and this brings a lot of differences when it comes to ringgit rate.
But what is forcing our ringgit to be in declining in terms of value? There's a lot of different aspects that is making us, weaker in terms of our ringgit, and one of it is the confidence towards Malaysia. There's just so many crises that is happening politically and economically towards Malaysia. One of the key reason is ringgit. The weakness in ringgit shows that people are still not confident in buying as much ringgit as possible. Hence, the decline towards 3.8 or almost 3.8 in comparison to $1.
And this is quite serious because come on, we have to be proud of our own money, but it looks like it's just a dropping. For now, it just remains at this rate, but I really hope that it goes up. I mean, the ringgit needs to have a value when it comes to especially come to national economic state, and that it tells a lot of it could be just a paper, but then it's something that it runs the whole nation.
I hope we don't turn out like Indonesia where everything is in millions but actually the worth is very little in comparison to the US dollar. But the problem is there's so many issues that affect the value of a currency. According to the Hong Leong Investment Bank, the ringgit would remain under pressure due to combination of factors including global monetary policy divergence, weak crude oil prices, possibility of a downgrade in sovereign credit rating by Fitch Rating, as well as political uncertainties and controversies surrounding One Malaysia Development Bank. So the faith towards the ringgit is so low that the recovery has been quite slightly from a 9-year low against the US dollar as the greenback weakened against most of the major currency in the world. So if the US dollar is also weakening and we are also further weakening, that means that our ringgit is even worse.
Well, it was announced that the other day, the article said about the Bank Negara that it was assured that it would not be worse than this, and also at the same time, it was very positive to just announce that there was a 20-cent increase in terms of ringgit value, but that doesn't bring much difference when it comes to our compared to our living style and then all those cost of living in Malaysia. So we have to look at in the country's long-term economic benefits here, that the ringgit value is very important. I mean, the US dollar is dropping, and also because of the oil price. But this, on the other hand, this also will attract other foreigners to come in Malaysia to buy more stuff because it's cheaper when they convert into from US dollars to ringgit.
So it's good for the consumer, foreign consumers, but not good for Malaysian consumer.
Yeah.
Things are becoming more expensive, especially with GST in place. And talking about ringgit, one of the biggest issue is the weakening of ringgit has encouraged, interestingly, Bruneians to shop in Malaysia ahead of Hari Raya Aidilfitri. Can you imagine
like
that?
How I mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, but it's of course not good news to our Prime Minister especially and to the rest of Malaysia, especially after unveiling the 11 Malaysia plan in in conjunction towards the road of the Vision 2020. So the weakening of ringgit will only cause people to be resentful towards the government. Anyway, we'll take another one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on the social, cultural aspect of Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Welcome back, this is Grace.
Grace, I have a question to ask you. Do you watch the SEA Games?
To be honest, I don't really follow just because I have no time to watch. Yeah, but then in terms of SEA Games results, perhaps I just hear from my peers or friends or just to hear from the news.
It seems like Singapore is doing really, really well.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as Vietnam. In fact, just recently, Vietnam has taken home 3 goals in tracks. Vietnam proved its mettle on the track at the Southeast Asian Games by winning 3 gold medals on a very busy afternoon at the National Stadium in Singapore.
And it's something that Vietnam needs to be proud of now, because Singapore is pretty well known for having a lot of good talents when it comes to sports. But Vietnam wasn't really highlighted before, and this SEA Games will probably bring Vietnam to another steps to highlight this nation. And then there was a winner of the men's 100 meters. Filipino Eric Sean, the Cray, set a new SEA Games record in winning the 400-meter hurdles in just 49.40 seconds. And on the other hand, the women's Vietnamese Nguyen An Thi Huyen also broke the game's record with a time of 56.15 seconds, beating the home favorite, who is Dipna Lim Prasad, who set a new personal best time of 59.24 seconds. And that was just the 4 athletes starting field. And then Indonesia also had a gold medal on the track when starting. The favorite Agus Prayogo gradually broke the field open after leading the 6-man cluster in the opening stage of the men's 10,000 meters. So it looks like all these 3 nations have been doing very well. But the question is, where's Malaysia?
Actually, in Malaysia, in terms of the overall tally, we are at the 4th spot, which is not bad. If you look at all the medals that have been won, 4 countries stood out. Of course, Singapore is leading the pack at 175 overall medals with 60 golds, of course, and 51 silver and 64 bronze, while Vietnam just edging behind a bit at 115 overall medals with 48 goals, and Thailand with 46 goals and overall medal tally at 141 medals. And Malaysia, in fact, we are quite optimistic about Malaysia, even though we might not do really well in comparison to Singapore, Vietnam, and Thailand. We want 27 golds, 31 silver, and 38 bronze. And we are at number 4th place at 96 overall gold tally. What I'm disappointed is West Indonesia, because Indonesia has been quite strong in the past SEA Games. They have been on the top spot for almost every SEA Games when it comes to overall medal tallies. So this time I'm quite disappointed with Indonesia, in fact.
Well, but Indonesia is doing pretty okay in this season. It's not that bad. They also have gained a few gold medals as well. But however, maybe it's not up to the expectation at this season.
And just a bit of fun facts about the SEA Games. Filipino sprinters wear national flag upside down, sparking minor outcry.
Well, it is a bit embarrassment to the nation, and of course they won. However, it was spotted that they were wearing the upside down version of flag with the red rather than blue on top, and then it was of course bringing a bit of outcry back to the Philippines.
But then it's not really known who was responsible for this such a design or the wear. However, to the nation, it was a bit of embarrassment.
It is. But overall, I'm actually quite happy with the SEA Games organized in Singapore. It seems like it's been running really, really smoothly, and a lot of and Singapore athletes have been doing really, really well. So all the best and keep it up, Singapore. On the other hand, we have another news. Moving on from SEA Games news, we have not such a good news, but it's about what is happening in Banda Aceh now. Do you know that women are being banned from night spots after 11 p.m. Only women.
There is a curfew for females then in Aceh, in Indonesia, and this was set by the Islamic regulations in Aceh province. So all these restaurants, internet cafes, tourist sites, sports facilities, and even the entertainment venues, they are told to actually close after 11.
Mm-hmm. And all these sites, that means it's not just they cannot go there. The employers or the owner of the businesses are also instructed to refuse service to women after 11 p.m. unless they are accompanied by a husband or male family members. Can you imagine this is what Islamic State is all about? It's pretty scary.
It is sort of putting a wrong image to what the Muslim is all about, and this will bring another image to the other nations. And when it comes to female and the male sort of gender roles in the one society, and if one is restricting the other gender, of course it brings another lot of mixed opinions and bring a different perspectives when it comes to Muslim.
And women will also be barred from working in such businesses after the cut-off time, in a move slammed by a women's rights advocate as a discriminatory. Of course, it's definitely discriminating towards women. Can you imagine if you come from a middle class, a poor background, and you need a job, and you cannot just simply being barred to work even at odd hours because you need to feed your kids, and
for sure,
and women should have the freedom to do as much as men. The way that the idea of the role of woman as the weaker sex is not right. I think.
Much as the government is coming up with the sort of this slogan that we need to protect for women, but it should be done in the other way around. They should educate women in a better manner, and also they should not restrict someone's freedom just like that. And also they can, like you mentioned, they can have money, they can have jobs outside at certain hours, even though it may sound very dangerous and risky at certain duration. However, it is still up to them. They have their own rights to whether they want to work or they want to stay at home.
The best way the government should do is to provide protection to all in terms of freedom of movement, freedom of expression, rather than restricting women to go out at night. And in fact, the government meddling in women's affairs, it gives the wrong impression about what Islam means or Islamic value means. It shows that Islam is all about trying to restrict women, but in actuality, is that the case? Is that how Islam being reduced to create more barriers to women to voice out their concern, or to get a job, or to even have to be go to cafes or be entertained or do sports?
One religion should bring and also educate to be able to respect and also to understand one society, even one gender, in a better manner. But then forcing them or restricting certain rights is not always right.
Anyway, that's all for our news today. You can always catch us live at durianasean.com, and of course on the go via your mobile by downloading the TuneIn app and listen to us at Durian ASEAN.
As well as don't forget to look for us and other social channels such as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. And your feedbacks are always welcome.
Ciao.